Tesla's making Model 3s by the hundreds of thousands. They're about to launch the Model Y, the pickup truck, the semi. With so much new stuff coming out, we were thinking, what is the future of Tesla's bread and butter products from a couple years ago, the Tesla Model X and the Tesla Model S? These are two products that haven't been updated in a while, and we were starting to wonder, especially with Elon's comments, that really they're making these cars more out of nostalgia and out of passion than really for any kind of business purpose, because they don't really factor in very large to their future. So what is the future of the Model S and the Model X? That's what we're talking about today. But before we begin, we want to take a quick moment and say thank you so much for watching. If you're new, consider hitting that subscribe button and the bell icon so you don't miss our future videos. We are a channel dedicated to the future of technology, energy, and transportation. I'm Ricky, and this is 2-Bit Da Vinci. We made a video about how I finally made the decision to buy my first Tesla, and I'm expecting delivery in the next 6 weeks or so. Now, to be fair, the Model S and the Model X have been around for years, and I haven't bought one. The Model S and the X start about $20,000 to $30,000, $40,000 higher than the Model 3. And so for that reason, I never really considered them, even though I actually love both cars. The Model S, I think, is absolutely brilliant. It's a little bit larger than the Model 3. And that third row jump seat for children, I think is so cool. It actually reminds me of those old station wagons from the 80s. But the reason why that's so cool is you put your kids back there and you can seat 7 people in a sedan. That's pretty amazing. It also has the ludicrous mode and the P100 and all that stuff. So it's a cool car, to be sure. And the Model X is equally cool because it's a little bit more spacious. If you have kids, loading and unloading is that much simpler and easier. And it's a great SUV, and it's the first 6-passenger EV that you can buy. But again, the prices were high, and I personally never really thought about pulling the trigger and buying one. The Model Y is going to be smaller, and it's going to sell really well. We're going to make a future video about why the Model Y is going to be Tesla's biggest hit and its most important car. But Tesla is still making the S and the X. So what is their plan for the future with these cars? The Tesla Model S has been around since 2013. It was the first true Tesla that they built from the ground up. The first Tesla, the Roadster, was actually built by Lotus as a kind of a package that they built upon. But the Model S was pure Tesla, and the design language was beautiful. To be honest, if you look at cars from 2013 when the Model S came out, you're going to see just how much prettier the Model S was compared to its rivals. And the design has aged really well. And a few years ago, in 2017, I believe, they did a facelift to make the front end look more like the Model 3. First, I think they had the more grille-like look, because I think people expect a grille on a car. That's just how we've been conditioned with that big gas engine. But with the Model 3, they took that away, and the Model S follows suit and has a much cleaner front end. In 2020, they're actually going to refresh it again, add a couple of new elements, a couple of small tweaks here and there, and also introduce Plaid mode, which is going to be the crazy fastest mode and the fastest Tesla that you can buy. And I think this is in response to the Porsche Taycan and other high halo EVs that are being produced now. Because Tesla wants to show everybody, we've been doing this for years, and we could just as easily make a car that can compete, and it'll be pretty simple for them. The reason why the Taycan is probably a little bit faster than Tesla is because I think their rear engine has a 2-speed gearbox. So all the Teslas you can buy right now have a single speed, and that really is what determines the speed. And as soon as Tesla goes for a 2-speed, like some of the other companies out there, the Model S is going to be crazy fast. But the basic design is the same. If you look at the conventional car makers like Honda and Ford and Toyota, what they'll do is they'll run a model for between 5 and 7 years. And in that time, they'll do facelifts to kind of keep it fresh. Because they know that they've poured millions and millions into R&D for a new platform and a new car. And they can't just go and build a new one because they'll never recoup the money that they've spent. So instead, they'll tweak the front end, the front fascia, they'll add a couple of lines here and there, and make it look fresh while it's still really the same car. And Tesla's doing that. But will Tesla ever make a brand new, wholly redesigned Model S? What about a Model X? And that's what we wanted to get into. So we'll talk about the two cars separately. Let's start with the Model S. I don't believe Tesla will ever update this car. And the reason why is because sedan sales around the world are kind of slumping. Sedans are selling less and less, and crossovers and SUVs are selling more and more, especially here in North America. And the Model S is a huge car. It's very long, and so parking it is just as tough as bigger cars like crossovers. So the Model S has a couple of things going against it. But we do believe that Tesla will keep selling it because it'll be their flagship car. It'll be like their Mercedes S-Class. It'll be the car that if you have $100,000 or more, you're probably going to want to buy because they're going to be a little more unique and not as mass produced. And speaking of the price, you might think, oh, well, why doesn't Tesla start mass producing the Model S like they do the Model 3 and they can bring prices down and maybe they'll sell more of them? But the problem with that is that the Model S was never designed to be manufactured in a large scale. If you look at companies like Apple, what Apple does when they have a new iPhone is they will never add new technology that they can't mass produce at a rate of millions a year. So for example, if you think about OLED technology in their screens, Apple was pretty much the last company to adopt it. And the reason why is because many years ago when OLEDs first burst on the scene, companies would say, oh, we can make about 20 or 30,000 of these OLED screens a year. And that might have been fine for a small startup company that wanted to show off that they have the latest and greatest tech. But for Apple, that was no good because they need to make millions of these iPhones. So Apple waited until the moment when they said, okay, when you can deliver these by the millions at this price point, we'll talk. And that's how mass production really has to work. When you mass produce something, you have to control the supply chain from all the third-party vendors, the raw material supply, and every part at the component level. And if there is a bottleneck in any part of that, you can't mass produce these cars. So let's say, for example, on the Model S, there is a component, let's say like in the screen or the dashboard, that has to be hand carved and hand chiseled and hand sanded. That will take a lot more time. And if it can't be automated by robots, then that will be your bottleneck. And that means that you can't make 1 million of these a day. You can only make 100 of these a day. And that will be the limitation. And the Model S, as Elon has said before, would have to be drastically changed if they ever wanted to bring it to mass production levels. And I don't think they're going to do that because I don't think the market segment is there. People are moving away from sedans. And for that reason, the Model S, I believe, will be what you're looking at for some time. I don't think they're going to pull the model. It's going to continue to be in their lineup. But I think that they're going to tweak it here and there, add new tech, maybe change a few panels here and there, but largely keep the car the same. That way they can sell maybe 10,000 a year to people who really love that car, but without having to invest too much R&D and keeping up this model that's not going to make them as much money as the pickup truck or the Model Y or the Semi. The Model X I am a little bit more optimistic for. Again, the Model X as we know it today with the Falcon Wing doors and all of this extra stuff is not going to be mass producible, again, for the same reasons as the Model S. This car as we know it in this incarnation isn't going to last, and I think it will be killed off eventually. But I do believe that there will be a next-gen Model X. And I think what they're going to do is they're going to look at the BMW X5 or the X7 and say that's our target and we're going to try to make the best SUV out there. The Model X is great, but it has that really sports coupe roofline for aerodynamics, which limits the interior capacity, and it's a 6-passenger. I think what they need to probably do is aim for 7 at least, 7 or 8, and larger cargo space as well. Now this will mean that it won't be as efficient, it will use more energy to go 100 miles, but I think SUV owners understand that because SUV owners who own like the X5 or the X7, they're probably getting 15 miles a gallon anyway. So for them, if the new Model X is less efficient than the S or the 3, but it's still way more practical and affordable to operate than a gas SUV, it'll still be a winner. Look for things like the Falcon Wing doors to be removed. I think that was kind of a gimmick that was cool and kind of shed light on it as a model, but it isn't really practical for mass production, and I don't think anybody really ever needs it. We've had conventional doors for a long time, and I think the next Model X will have that. So I think the new Model X will ride on maybe the new pickup platform or maybe a stretched out version of their current platform, but it'll be a whole new model maybe in 2 or 3 years, maybe after the Y and the pickup truck have come out, but it'll be big and new and it'll be a big seller. So the Model X has a future. It will continue on and be redesigned at some point. Look for mid-cycle refreshes to the look and style, but it won't be changed for a few more years. Not until Model 3 China is online, Model Y is online, pickup truck is online. When all those other projects are ready and fully ramped up, then I think their next play will be to rehaul and have a whole new second generation Model X, which will be a big seller, I think. I think it'll continue to be pricey, but I think it'll be a lot less expensive than it is now because they're going to cut it and change it in a way to make it less boutique and bespoke and more mass producible. Look for more component sharing and other attributes that will keep the price down, but the Model X probably will be their most expensive model, but it should be cheaper than it is now. So the Model S and the Model X were never really designed from a component by component level to be mass produced. I think there's more handcrafting and more custom pieces that go into those cars that just wouldn't translate to mass production. That's where the Model 3 does make some concessions. The Model 3 is a drastic departure from the S and the X, as you can tell. Look on the inside. The X and the S look very similar. The 3 looks completely different. And that is a glimpse into Tesla's vision on how to make 100,000 of something. And that's what the Model 3 represents. The Model Y will be almost identical. It'll be very similar in terms of how they pick parts and pieces to make scale the most important consideration. So what do you guys think? Are you big fans of the S or the X? I personally have always loved those two cars. In fact, I have a reservation for the 3, but every so often I'll go look at used S's and X's. But I think I'm gonna stick with the 3. I think I'm gonna buy it new and just ride it as far as I can and make videos covering everything about it. But are you gonna miss these cars? Do you think I'm right? Do you think I'm wrong? Let us know your comments and your feedback about these cars and what you think. And in general, thank you again. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and we'll keep these videos coming. Thank you again so much for watching. I'm Ricky, and this is 2Bit Da Vinci.